I think we can start.
Thank you, Atieno, Felix, Dr. Felix Odhiambo, Crispin, Dr. Gekombe. Can we go live?
Sure, Commissioner.
We can start the session, Commission. Yeah, we can start.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Are we live to everybody?
Yes, we are. Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, colleagues on the platform and colleagues who are here with us. Daktari, as you can see, we have made the adjustments to be gender balanced. Good afternoon, Dr. Deche from Mombasa, Dr. Odhiambo, Atieno Gola, Crispin, and I think
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Dr. Gekombe. Today we have the privilege of having Dr. Mercy Deche, who's a good friend and who served this society as a distinguished advocate for the last 27 years. Dr. Deche has an LLB from the University of Nairobi. She then has an LLM from the University of London and a PhD from the University of Nairobi. She also is a teacher. She lectures at the University of Nairobi in Mombasa and has done so for the last 10 years. She's therefore an academic. It's a great pleasure, Daktari, to have you here. But before you start, I want to have a disclaimer that what we are doing here is not a coaching or a marking scheme on behalf of the Judicial Service Commission. It is a webinar to empower our members to continue to be enlightened and to have the necessary skills to be able to participate in future interviews or on opportunities that arise at the Judicial Service Commission. Secondly, we picked this topic because we've had great numbers from our members asking for this sort of thing, and we've continued with our webinar. And I would want to borrow from Oliver Wendell Holmes, who says that the life of the law has not been logic, but experience. And that is why it's so important to have somebody who has had the experience on the other side. Dr. Deche has also sat not only as a commissioner, but a vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission. And at some point, she was also an acting chair. So she has the experience and the necessary skills from that side. In fact, one of my fond or great moments that I remember of Dr. Deche is her cross-examination of retired Justice Aaron Ringera. I think that's a masterclass on cross-examination, and that's for another day on trial advocacy. So without much ado, I would want to invite Dr. Felix Odhiambo to take over. I will be now going forward, be a participant and learn like all of us. Thank you very much, and let us engage and enjoy this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Commissioner Omwanza Ombati, for this session, convening this particular session. My name is Felix Odhiambo, and I would be moderating this particular session. Colleagues who are on board, this particular session is a very important session. Like Commissioner has indicated, it is an opportunity to build the capacity of the membership of the Law Society of Kenya with regard to empowering us in terms of the do's and don'ts and how to improve our chances or our applications when we appear as and when some of us may appear before the commission. So I would think that the Commissioner Omwanza Ombati, is hitting the ground running literally by making sure that he takes his responsibility or his commitment to the membership very seriously. And thank you so much, Commissioner. I think it's also very important because it's about performance, and this therefore speaks to the question of competence of the membership. I think sometimes we've had complaints about fewer members of the society, fewer members from the bar being appointed or being nominated for positions in the JSC, especially for the bench, in comparison to members who are already serving in the bench. But I think if the issue of competence is not addressed, and these interviews being one of the areas or one of the times when our competencies may be interrogated, then we may not be able to improve on the percentages as may have been required or may have been sought by the general membership. So therefore, members, this is a very important session, and we take this opportunity to welcome Commissioner Deche, who has been our representative between 2016 and 2021. So that Daktari Karibu, and for a start, we'd like to hear from you basically the overview of interviews before the JSC. What should members of the Law Society of Kenya do to improve their chances? Thank you, and Karibu.
Thank you very much, Felix. How much time do I have?
For that, Commissioner, you have 15 minutes, Commissioner.
Oh, you are asking me questions. I thought I'd just go on and just talk. So anyway, the way I had organized the presentation, probably you'll just for ease of flow, but we can accommodate each other as we go along. But I do thank you for these invites, and I would want to say that it's, as Commissioner has said, it's quite timely because most of us do not, but by the nature of our work, we can actually survive through life without ever having gone for an interview, and very successfully so, because if you are like me, I did my pupillage with my grandfather. He didn't need to interview me because it was a home-based, a local arrangement. After that, I got all my jobs by word of mouth. And so I never needed to do all this. And I think that is normally a plus for us. And it is also, it is a minus in one way or another. But we are all here to learn. I have also been learning, and I'm just happy to share what I have learned so far. Felix, I'm asking how much time I have, because I did receive a concept, and I'm not starting now with complaints, but I received a concept from Atieno, very comprehensive, and I know I'm supposed to cover the overview of interviews, understanding the role of JSC as an employer, the procedural aspects of the various positions, and the positions are many, the do's and the don'ts, the expectations of the commissioners, the personal branding, communication skills. It's a whole lot. And I know that what we are having here is a diverse group, a diverse range of people. So I just want to start, just like Commissioner, before I answer your question, I want to start with some just some disclaimers that because of the width and the diversity of the audience, I will be quite general, because I know there are people here who have logged in because they are interested in legal research as jobs, others tribunals, others of course judges. I'm also aware that there are those judges who want to ascend to the Court of Appeal who have also logged in. The other disclaimer is that, so that's as to the generality, and maybe Felix, if you see me just doing my own thing and not answering your question, that's part of the situation I find myself in. There's also the issue of the fact that I'm no longer in the commission, so, and I'm not watching brief for the commission. So the deep questions that have to do with what is happening there, I may not be able to answer. The other thing is that, of course, I am just talking from my own personal experience, what I experienced and got to know during my tour of duty. So these may not be so free from personal biases and preferences. And then, of course, I am talking of the situation as it was 3 years ago. The approach may have changed. And yeah, and let me also say that I will just try my best. But let me share my screen.
Okay. Commissioner, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I'm advised you will make a presentation for up to 30 minutes. Then after that, we go into Q&A session.
That is even better.
That's okay.
Let me share my screen and run through the presentation. And I just want to start with, I hope you can see the screen. You can see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes, I can see it from my end.
Oh, thank you. I thought I had been left alone. I think the most important thing is to understand, and I'll be shifting from judge to legal researcher and other positions once in a while. But of course, I'll be more biased towards judgeship. A lot of people ask me, why does the commission recruit in piecemeal at times 20? Why 20 and not 50? And we know that we have vacancies for 50, if not even 100. And that's the same thing with legal researchers. Why do they always recruit piecemeal? And I want to start from the word go to state that these recruitments are normally, or the numbers are normally informed by the needs that are there against available resources. Yeah. So even though we may have situations where the vacancies are 100 or 150, or some people are saying that soon a lot of judges are going to almost due for retirement in the next 5 years. Why can't we recruit? There is always this issue of availability of resources. So the resolutions that are normally passed by the commission are based on that. So, and although judges are paid from the consolidated fund, the commission has to think, if we recruit these judges, where are they going to sit? Who is going to be their orderly? Do we have their cars? Do we have their chambers? So if we recruit legal researchers, where are they going to sit? Do we even have their salaries? And so on and so forth. So that is one thing that I thought is important to clear. Of course, so it starts with the resolution of the JSC, but for the judges, you find that it has to go a step further, and it is gazetted. The vacancies are gazetted and announced by the Chief Justice in the Kenya Gazette. And that really speaks to the momentousness of the position of judge. So if you are thinking of applying for that position of judge, just think of how momentous it is, how many positions are actually advertised in the Kenya Gazette. Then the other thing, then you have to ask yourself, you want to be a judge to begin with. Do you qualify? Ask yourself, do I qualify? And there's one thing I want to bring out. If you look at Article 166 of the Constitution, all the sub-articles speak to the qualifications of the Supreme Court and the CJ, Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and the High Court. And I've just given an example in 166.5 about the qualifications of to be a judge of the Superior Court, of High Court. And it says, A, look at these qualifications very clearly. It says at least 10 years experience as a Superior Court judge or professionally qualified magistrate. So it just states 10 years experience, either as a judge, I imagine it's a judge elsewhere, or a qualified magistrate. But look at B. B says at least 10 years experience as a what? As a distinguished academic or legal practitioner, or such experience in other relevant legal field. And what we have failed to appreciate as practitioners or people who are not on the bench is that the qualifications to be judge for us who are not in the bench is actually different from those who are already in the bench, because the Constitution adds that word, distinguished. So for non-judicial officers, it is not simply, we are not looking at 10 solar years of experience. We are looking at the distinction. There's a person in the Bible who was called Methuselah. Methuselah lived 969 years, and his distinction is having lived long. Now, forgive me when I say this, that the JSC does not look for the Methuselah kind of 10 years experience, 10 flat years. No, they are looking for years of distinction. And I was looking up the meaning of distinction. What is it to be distinguished? It's very successful, authoritative, and commanding great respect, marked by eminence, excellence. So you should be asking yourself, are you distinguished? Again, the other meaning is acclaimed, celebrated, famed, famous, illustrious, renowned, noteworthy. Are you striking, celebrated, remarkable? All those. When you are looking at the distinction of the qualification, please ask yourself these questions. And then when you start engaging the recruitment process, you should be trying to project that distinction when you go for the interview ultimately, but to me, more important, when you are compiling your paperwork, which we'll be looking at shortly. When you are compiling your paperwork, is it speaking to this distinction? When you are walking into the interview room, does it speak to this distinction? Your very attire, are you dressed like a distinguished person? Communication, your tone. So if you forget everything else I have said, remember that there is there's a difference between what is expected, and it's a constitutional imperative from those who are already on the bench and those of us who are out here. And of course, in addition, you must have that law degree, and there's the issue of the high moral character, integrity, and impartiality. I will not dwell on that. Again, if you want to be a legal researcher, be very keen and ask yourself, am I qualified? I just picked this from a 2022 advert. I'm not saying that this is what they require of legal researchers. But for instance, this time round, they wanted someone with an LLB degree from a recognized university and a postgraduate diploma in law, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with a current practicing certificate. And what I found is that a lot of applicants to this position of legal researchers will mostly not have a practicing certificate, and it is a requirement. so you find that such a person will not get shortlisted. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize is the issue of detail. Detail, detail, detail. Your documents should speak to what? To your qualifications, to your competencies, and the criteria in the advert. I will be looking at the qualifications later, at least as per the Constitution. And why am I saying that the documents are important? It is because there is normally a lot of backroom activity, and I'll be speaking to it shortly, that happens. You know, at times we think the only thing that matters is when I go for the interview. No, there's a lot of backroom activity, and you should be such that, or for instance, if I apply, I should put in papers that will continue speaking for me even when I come back to Mombasa, to wait either for the shortlisting or for the date of the interview. That bundle must speak for you, and it must be complete. So if the advert says you have to complete certain JSC forms, and I agree, Commissioner Omwanza, some of them don't quite make sense, some of those forms that are completed, and some people choose to ignore them. You must complete. If they say complete Form 2 and Form 2B, and they are even almost looking the same, please complete them. Attach all the documents that they say, sample writings, and you will find that the structure and the overall themes, both for judges and all the other positions, whether it's to the tribunals or to as legal researchers or law clerks, they will always require most of these things, sample writings, and they normally ask for 5. Don't give 4. The testimonials, the references, if they say 2 professional references and 1 character reference, please make sure you have all of them. Do not send shoddily prepared documents or fictitious ones. There are normally many people who send, especially sample writings. You just head it one thing, it is a writing, but when someone reads it, they know that this is a judgment that you have just collected or copy-pasted from Kenya law and titled it sample writing. So don't do that. Make sure that you are sending your own sample writings. I'll be speaking a bit more to that. If they ask for hard copy and online, don't start wondering, oh, we are in digital age, online should suffice. No, just send both and ensure that the hard copies are received. Don't send by courier. I always tell people, just make sure that someone delivers it to the secretariat and it is stamped received. So that if you are raising any issues that I did send my application and it was not received, you have some form of evidence. Make sure that your documents are not contradicting each other. We normally have a CV that is saying one thing, speaking to a certain timeline, and then the testimonials or your references, the people who you ask to write are giving a totally different story. They are saying this one worked here from this year to this year, but your CV is giving another year. So make sure that the documents do not contradict each other, heed to the timelines, and of course, whenever you are in doubt, the secretariat is always ready and willing to help. You can call them. Now, let me speak to the issue of shortlisting. Ideally, and it's for all positions, what the commission is supposed to do is simply consider the or check the documents and determine whether they are compliant and whether they are complete. But I'll tell you the truth. When you have a commission that is faced with 300 responses, in fact, the last recruitment of High Court judges attracted about 305 applicants, which is a good thing. And by the way, someone was saying, oh, most of them most of the shortlisted people are normally from the bench. That is not actually accurate. But anyway, they are faced with 300 people, applicants, over 300, and they are supposed, the vacancies are only 20. What should that tell you? it should tell you that the truth is there are people who actually qualify, but will not be shortlisted. And this is why. It is because, just like the name suggests, shortlisting is normally actually an elimination stage. And if you look at the Constitution already knows that most of the people, or an overwhelming majority of the people who will apply will be people who already qualify. Yeah. So the shortlisting is all about elimination, and it's normally a difficult task for the commission. Initially, it used to be undertaken by the secretariat, but I know it's the commissioners who actually do it. So last time, for instance, they shortlisted 100 out of the 300, and it must have been very difficult. And the reason why they cannot interview 300 people is because, of course, we have 365 days in a year and 24 hours in a day. And remember, these are part-time commissioners. These are part-time commission. They have real jobs elsewhere. And again, they cannot interview large numbers because it will raise an audit query. The Auditor General will ask, why are you interviewing so many people so that you can have more sitting days? And again, it's also a good HR practice. They say for every vacancy, you should think of 3 to 4 candidates. You can't shortlist more than that. So what would happen initially was that they would check who does not have a HELB, who has not attached their HELB certificate or KRA clearances or a certificate of good conduct, and those people would be excluded. But we know that the lawyers again went to court, in this case, Trusted Society of Human Rights, and Justice Odunga clearly stated that you cannot use the absence or presence of a document, those clearances, to shortlist or not shortlist someone. So that parameter or that criteria was struck out by the court. But what the court did not do was then to give an indication of how they are supposed to shortlist. So poor them. I can say that now that I'm no longer there. So what I know the commission does is normally to look for other parameters. For instance, that's why they are very strict when it comes to sample writings. Have you given 4 instead of 5? You are out. For specialized courts or court of appeal, are you attaching sample writings of, I'm avoiding to say running down cases, because people who do running down, and I also used to do running down, may feel offended. But you want to go to the court of appeal and you have attached your sample writings of submissions you wrote in lacerations and bruises. I have nothing about lacerations and bruises, but I also benefited from them. But you should get more serious. You might find yourself not being shortlisted. You want to join the ELC and you have attached sample writings of criminal cases, you will not be shortlisted. Again, they also look at the parameters of age. I know the Constitution says 10. They may decide, because of the large numbers, can we go from 12 onwards? And then can we also exclude these people who are 2 years to retirement? I am just saying what I have seen done, but it's normally a very difficult exercise. But what normally happens is that the commission will normally give reasons for not shortlisting. And I know people who have followed up the commission for those reasons, and they have been given. Now, to the backroom, I talked about the backroom. Backroom, when you apply to be a judge, you are opening yourself up for scrutiny. And the commission normally has a triennial approach to this scrutiny. First and foremost, you will normally see from the newspaper advert or the advert that normally goes out, that when they say the following people are shortlisted, they normally call out to members of the public to avail in writing any information of interest that it may have concerning those who have been shortlisted. Yeah, so you want the job, be ready for the scrutiny. The other thing is that the commission also now follows up for verification those documents that you have put in. They write to your former employers and all that. And then thirdly, they also write to these professional bodies and government agencies. So they will engage the NIS. Of course, we've known in the past NIS has misbehaved and just weaponized the whole process against people that it does not like, but the commission still engages them. The Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, HELB, LSK, FIDA, ICJ, CRB, EACC, and the SACCOs, just in case you belong to the category that just takes loans and you do not pay back. So the feedback that is normally, a lot of feedback is received from all manner of stakeholders. Apart from the government agencies and professional bodies, information normally flows in from spouses, yeah, people you are living with in the same house. If you're not behaving well, from ex-spouses, baby mamas and their male equivalent, former students, clients, litigants, relatives, villagers, a lot of anonymous information comes in. And what normally the commission will do, if it's weighty, then you are asked to respond to it. And what I want to say, because I know time is running, is that because of all this, in view of all this, make peace with people, even as you apply, even if you're applying just for, you're applying for other positions, not the positions of judges, because they still dig in, probably not so much as when you're applying for judge, but make peace with your potential accusers. You know who they are. And then some miscalculations when it comes to social media are normally unpurgeable. How do you behave in the social media? I know nowadays that they look into that. And of course, financial obligations, that's a major problem with us practitioners. KRA, please make sure that you look into that. When it comes to the issue of interviews, we already know that they are public. Let me not dwell on that. And but just to say that the fact that they are public, and this is a statutory imperative, it is there in the first schedule to the JS Act, but this is only for judges. Some people were asking, why are they not interviewing for the position of chief registrar in public? It is not there in the Act. The Act only talks about publicizing the interviews of judges. And this one has, of course, you should think about it also as you apply, because it has the potential for lifetime embarrassment, yeah? Especially when you are not properly prepared. It could eventually really, I've seen people whose confidence is totally, is really affected because of that public nature of the interview. Again, I'm just saying this just so that you can be prepared. But like I have said, that's what the Act says. But I want to say that it is important for you to prepare even if you don't get the job. So that even if you don't get the job, you are left with your dignity intact. I'm still on the issue of the public nature of the interview. And even if you get the job, you know you can still get the job, but you made a certain blunder and the whole world saw, and it continues being on record. So whether you get the job or not, just prepare and do your very best. About the areas which where the interview questions are drawn from, they are there in the JS Act, first schedule to the JS Act. That is where the criteria is. And although they are for the judges, you'll find that all the interviews or the questions that are asked for all the other positions, they normally follow that line of questioning. The only thing that is different is the depth. It is only the depth that is different. So each commissioner is normally assigned an area of questioning. So never blame it on a commissioner like, oh, that one likes asking about integrity questions. No, it is what they are assigned. For instance, I used to be assigned issues to do with writing, sample writings. Of course, Omwanza will wonder then why was I asking retired Justice Ringera those questions? I will tell you behind the tent. So over and above the criteria that I will be sharing with you that is in the first schedule to the JS Act, there are some things that you also need to know. For instance, you want to join the institution of the judiciary. Do you know about the judiciary? Do you know about the institution? What do you know? Its history. Know something about its history, its vision, mission, and core values. Know about its blueprints, yeah? Since the Mutunga blueprint, then thereafter we had the Maraga blueprint. We have a current blueprint by the current CJ. Do you know about it? Do you know its pillars? Know the terminologies. Apart from knowing about the institution that you want to join, just know something about the government in general and how the judiciary fits in with other arms of government, of course, beyond judicial independence. I just want to run through very quickly, and this is just picked from the JS Act. They will want to know whether you are professionally competent. They will ask questions of that nature. They will want to know whether you are competent in your written and oral communication. By the way, remember what I said. Although I am saying they will want to know at the point of interview, remember, even the documents themselves should speak to these criteria. The documents should already be saying, hey, here we are, this candidate actually has professional competence. The documents should say, and not just wait for the date of the interview, that this person has written and oral communication skills. So they're interested in knowing how you communicate both in writing through your sample writings and then orally. When you get to the date of the interview, are you audible? Are you mumbling to yourself? Are you respectful? Are you answering the questions asked? Or you are first amending them and then answering the questions that you wish had been asked? Are you being truthful? And one of the ways that the commissioners will want to see whether this is a truthful person, they may ask, for instance, which is your greatest weakness? And you say, oh, my greatest weakness is that I am very thorough. How is that a weakness? You know, that is fake humility and not being genuine. Then another thing about communication, and when you bring in your sample writings, you may bring in a sample writing from an event, no, from a decision of arising from arbitration, and you have not anonymized, or from a mediation, you have not anonymized. The parties are there screaming, or even some people just bring in sample writings from a children's matter. You have not bothered to anonymize, and these are vulnerable people. Again, you are going to lose marks because of that. There is the issue of integrity. How is integrity normally evaluated or assessed? And by the way, I've written a paper on this. It is found in the Journal for Judicial, I think it's Journal on Court Administration. You will find the article there. I was just critiquing the whole idea of how the JSC evaluates integrity, because it is hard. You know, lack of integrity doesn't shine on someone's forehead. And this is where what other people are saying about you really matters. And the judiciary will really, really look into that. What are people saying about you when integrity, as far as integrity is concerned? But they will also want to see whether you know the theory of it around what jurisprudence has been generated around Chapter 6 by our courts. Do you also know the code of conduct? Have you engaged? Are you familiar with it? The judicial code of conduct. There's the issue of fairness. Again, this is all about what are other people saying about me. There is the issue of good judgment. And then there is the issue of legal and life experience. What do you have beyond LLB on KSL, Commissioner for Oaths and Notary Public? And I'm not talking about degrees, masters and PhDs. By the way, those ones just attract an extra mark each. I'm talking about what other things, what have you done? Have you empowered yourself in any other way? That's what the commission is looking at when they're thinking of the legal and life experience. Do you have knowledge of notable things of note? Yeah, there are things that intelligent people are supposed to know. For instance, and I'm talking about what I saw in the last interviews, a person who has some legal and life experience that is worth talking about or life worth considering should, for instance, know how parliament works. They should be familiar with PAC, PIC, a jailer, yeah, basic civic things in the international scene, not in depth, but at least have some awareness. Then there's the issue of community service. So let me repeat that it is not every criteria in the JS Act in the first schedule that is evaluated during the oral interview. Your documents will speak for yourself. The feedback that the JSC will get from all those people that I have listed will be speaking for you. And again, your CV, your testimonials, they really, really matter. So the recruitment process should worry you right from the start. I want to say this about those who may be listening and they are already in the bench. Maybe you are a judge and you have been shortlisted to the Court of Appeal. Your contribution to jurisprudence will matter, especially if you are in the High Court or Court of Equal Status. They'll be looking at that. What have you contributed in terms of jurisprudence? Or you just want to ascend for the sake of ascending? And then, do you know all the sources of our law? How acquainted are you with the landmark or notorious cases? By the way, this is for both those who are already in the judiciary and the rest of us. Are we acquainted with the landmark and notorious cases, especially from the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court? Still, on new people who are in the judiciary and you want to ascend higher, they will be looking a lot at both negative and positive feedback from stakeholders, especially the LSK and the LSK branches. It is a lot to do with what have your stakeholders been saying about you. So if you have not been in good books with the people you serve, especially the court users, you need to worry. And if you are the kind who will not bother convening bar bench meetings or CUCs, and how often you do it, you need to worry, because that is what will be waiting for you. I can guarantee you when you go for the interview. I don't want you to panic, but I need to tell you the truth, especially since I no longer appear before you. They will also want to see your leadership and administrative skills. How have they distinguished you? Are you just a judge, nothing else? And you have not really been distinguished in your administrative and leadership skills, especially in times of crisis. We had COVID. What did you do about it? We now have floods. Are you the type to adjourn everything because we have floods? Yeah. Do you have any certificate for self-development? Please, you need to show it. If you have complaints, because it's normal for judges to have complaints against them, have you responded to it comprehensively? Let me leave judges at that. And yeah, but again, before I leave you at that, remember again, they want to see about your judgments. How many judgments and writings and rulings do you deliver? How many do you have pending? What's your case clearance rate? What is the corruption perception index of the court that you serve? What's the customer satisfaction index? What is your workload? Yeah. And so you have to engage the performance directory. And you have any questions, you think their data is wrong, then you need to correct it before you go for the interview. But I want to say this as I come to a close, that remember, now this is for all of us, and whether you are applying to be a judge or for any other position, commissioners are human beings. Commissioners are human beings. You need to know how to appeal to that human. Yeah. You need to know how to appeal to that human who is interviewing you. And therefore, this calls for you to know your panelists and anticipate their areas of interest. Of course, when it comes now to for other positions, especially legal researchers and law clerks, I know the panelists would ordinarily be a commissioner and 2 judges. But for judges, we know it is normally the full commission that interviews. Do you care to know? It is important. In fact, I am inviting you to profile the panelists more or less the same way that we profile judges and magistrates before, when we have a matter before them. We know which one is likely to give a stay, which one is likely to give unreasonable conditions for that stay. Try and profile. Just know Commissioner so-and-so, what are they likely to like? I'm not asking you to profile them so that you follow them with a bribe. Nobody is bribed anyway. But it is just so that you can appeal to them during the interview. For instance, who is interested in devolution in that panel? What can I say about it? Who has authored what? What can I say about that paper? Yeah. What backgrounds do they come from? But use that information strategically in your responses so that you don't appear sycophantic or it can become counterproductive. But so this idea of profiling the commissioners and using it to your advantage is actually, it requires a deftness that I cannot teach you right now. Then again, remember, still on the panel, not all of them are lawyers. You may be able to have answers to all the legal questions, but I always tell people, how do I appear favorably, or how do I persuade this commissioner who's not a lawyer, but they represent the Public Service Commission? How do I persuade them? How do I persuade this commissioner who represents the people, both the male and the female? Because they have an equal vote or an equal score when it comes to evaluating you. These are people you cannot afford to ignore. And that's why I'm saying, let the document speak for you. Present yourself in a way that will appeal to everyone, both the lawyers and the non-lawyers. And again, so that's why I normally tell people, even as you speak legalese, make sure that you are simplifying it so that it makes sense to everyone. Dress memorably, but decently. Yeah. Don't be anxious, of course, do not panic. Maintain eye contact. Maintain eye contact, especially to people who you fear may not quite understand what you are saying. Look at them, but not stare at them in a spooky manner. Just maintain eye contact. I've already said speak audibly and with clarity. And then be yourself despite the cameras. There are some people who sit there and you can tell, now this one is acting. Cameras on, action. Don't do that. Just try to be yourself and do not be late. And then this is very important. If you have been asked all the questions, but there's some information that is within you that you think would add value to the conversation, make sure that you bring it out somehow towards the end. It could be when you're asked, do you have any further questions for this commission? You can say, no, I don't have any further questions, but I just wanted to mention X, Y, Z. But make sure it is something that earns you more marks, not something that just puts a noose around your head. It could even be a mitigating factor. You could be telling them, oh, by the way, you may have noticed that in my CV, between this time and this time, there seems to be a gap, and this is because I was actually admitted. But don't leave them with them believing that you are a sickly or you are still sick. You can say, now, but now I'm okay, I'm very fit as a fiddle. But so don't go away with the information that you know would have added value to the to the conversation. When the commission receives adverse information against people, at times you will find that they will call you to a camera session. When you are called, and this is normally even before the interviews, if you are ever summoned for that session, just know that it is because they want to protect certain vulnerable people, especially if it is a very personal thing involving your children or your family. They normally do call people for camera vetting, and that doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It is to protect someone. Now, scoring, there's a lot of mystery around scoring at the JSC. What normally happens is that each person, each commissioner has a score sheet, yeah? And the score sheet has all those areas or the criteria areas that I was talking about, right from the legal, your knowledge in law, community service, integrity. So all those areas are awarded marks, maximum marks. Yeah, for instance, if I remember, the sample ratings would be out of 10. So the commissioners will score out of 100. They all add up to 100. And each commissioner scores, and at the end of each interview, you will normally see the chief registrar, who is the secretary to the commission, collecting all those score sheets. And then they put them in sealed envelopes. Actually, each commissioner puts their score sheet in a sealed envelopes, and then the chief registrar collects them and they put them in the safe. And then at the end of the exercise, what they do is that the marks for all the commissioners are read out and projected. And then what they do for merit, they just do the average. Most of the times, during my time at the commission, they would just pick the first, if they needed 20, they'll pick the first 20. Of course, this is subject to a pass mark, which is normally 65%. If nobody gets 65%, then I think they may have to repeat the exercise, but the pass mark is normally 65%. And so they consider, after doing the merit issue, if there is need to balance, and the balance that is normally required, that is constitutional, is gender, regional, and ethnic. If they need to balance either gender, regional, and ethnic, they only consider those who had 65% and above. So even if you are a minority or a person who needs affirmative action and you did not score more than 65%, then you are not going to be considered. And this applies for all positions, not just for judges. Because what I used to notice is most of the times you'll find like 90% of those who have applied as legal researchers are ladies, and there's nothing wrong with having many female legal researchers. But if you find that maybe they wanted 20 legal researchers, and the first 20 they are all female, and we have some boy child there who are maybe number 25, but they did score above 65%, then they would balance gender in that manner. So it is only according to the constitutional imperatives, gender, regional, and ethnic balance. So the commission normally also tries to balance these insiders, outsiders. It is not always possible. For instance, you realize that there was a time the commission recruited everyone, all the judges of ELRC, they were all practitioners, and then all the judges apart from 4 of ELC were practitioners. And this is because the magistrates then came for the interview disadvantaged, because it is possible for you to be shortlisted, but when you come to the interview, you are disadvantaged. Why? Because for a long time, ELC and ELRC matters were not being heard by magistrates. So, of course, when they came for the interview for these 2 specialized courts, they came from a point of a disadvantage. And this is, again, another tip I want to give to my brothers and sisters from the courts of equal status who have been shortlisted as judges of the Court of Appeal. I know you have been engaging with maybe labor matters or land matters, But at the Court of Appeal interview, you will be asked interviews. You will be asked questions about family law, criminal law, and the like, election petitions. So I bet now the message is home that you really need to really work hard. Can scores be publicized? Not really. If you want your own scores or what you scored, maybe you can. They cannot be publicized as yet. There's that decision, you can look at it. Omtata went to court, and from the early stages, the case never went to full hearing, but the court was not so inclined to have the scores released. In South Africa, they're already doing that. They have allowed, there was a case where the marks were actually disclosed, not the marks, but all the deliberation that took place before the nomination happened. The court said that it should be released. And I think maybe it's a good idea, probably for those who score well. And it would also maybe deal with the issue of outlier marks. Anyone who would want to give outlier marks, either overly low or overly high, maybe that would take care of that. But for now, the marks, the JSC is not at liberty to disclose those marks. So what am I saying in a nutshell? I'm saying that normally when you apply for these positions, you are in a pool of very many qualified people. And I just picked this picture from somewhere, I can't remember where, but the whole idea is that you have to bring that out, that distinction, that uniqueness in you. Think of a crowd where everyone is shouting, I qualify, I qualify. Why your voice should be heard loudest so that you can be picked, because a lot of us really do qualify. And I want to end by saying that we all know that the slots are limited. So when you do not make it, it is not normally about you. It is normally about the slots. Failure to make the final list, I say, you should not take it, don't ever beat yourself too hard. And then, can I tell you something? A lot of people who are appointed judge, even in these lists, and they will forgive me if I call them that, they're actually repeaters. They failed, went back. They failed, went back. By the way, do you know I also failed the first time I vied for JSC? I was defeated by Florence Mwangaji. I went back, and then somehow mukanihurumia, and I got the position. So the idea is don't give up. Keep trying. If God wants you to get there, you will get there anyway. But I want to end. I've been ending for the last forever, but this is the last slide. But I want to say this. For the rest of you, whether you are applying as to be judge or to join the judiciary in any capacity, I want to encourage us to know that the cheese is moving. I read this book, Who Moved My Cheese? Let us know and beware that the cheese is moving. And because the cheese is moving, we have to keep reinventing ourselves or we perish. There was a time all I needed to do was to open a law firm and get an ambulance chaser. I opened, by the way, when we opened our law firm, we had 2 ambulance chasers. One would bring me very good fractures, and I was good to go. That is no longer possible because of you know what is happening to our insurance industry. And we can forever keep saying we need, I don't know, to protect our work, defend our work. Those who vie for positions will tell you, yes, when I am elected, I will defend your work. But we are reaching a position, and nobody had asked me to say this, but I'll say it anyway because I have the floor. We are reaching a situation where if you don't keep reinventing yourself, and I'm speaking to myself as a researcher and a consultant because AI is here and it can do a much better job than I do. If you don't keep reinventing yourself, you are going to get frustrated. And I also want to remind us that professional development, and this is for both the old and the young, it is normally a personal initiative. It's a personal initiative, not a communal aspiration. So it is important for us once in a while, every once in a while, get selfish, yeah? And think of yourself as this person who wants to develop in my career, yeah? Because professional bodies are never trade unions. There's very little of we as far as personal growth is concerned. So keep your headlights on. If you find that there's an opportunity for you to do a master's, do your master's. If you find that there's a management course that can be done, do it. But for heaven's sake, don't reach. And I'm talking also to those who may have logged in, like Akina Benjamin Joroge, who have been nominated to as judges. Even if you make it to the court, don't ever turn off your headlights. Keep your headlights on. The other day, someone told me, just forwarded to me, and Felix, I'm about to end, forwarded to me an application to apply for a postdoctorate. And I was like, I have a PhD, isn't that enough? And they persuaded me, no, you are better off applying for this postdoc. If I'm taken, I will proceed with it. So let's keep our headlights on at our own level. Whether you want to do just a short-time course or any other course, keep on trying, keep on showing up. And we all started that way. I'm encouraging the young people, when you fail, don't give up, just keep trying again. And then lastly, if you want to join the judiciary or any public service, be ready to be sent anywhere in the country. Karatina, Karachuonyo, and all the Kara anything. If you are a city girl like me who does not want waking up in a small town somewhere, don't apply. Don't go there. Because what normally happens is that people apply, and then the next thing is they're disturbing everyone. Can I be sent to Thika? Can I be sent to I don't know, Kilifi where? No. If you are joining the judiciary, just be ready for everything, and all the best. I'll be happy to engage in the Q&A. That's about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deche, for your presentation. At this point, let me invite my colleague Atieno Gola to take us to the next session. Thank you. Karibu, Atieno.
Yes, thank you so much, my senior. I'll just do a quick recap of what has been shared today by Dr. Deche. I thank her so much for sparing her time to share with us the nuggets of wisdom in terms of interviews before the Judicial Service Commission. And one of my key take-homes is that leadership is about service, and we're seeing that in the whole process of the interviews for before the JSC, the JSC tries to ensure that they take the best of the best. And the first thing she talked about is about distinguished service. So we should be able to ensure that even as we are presenting our applications to the JSC, there is some elements of distinguished service. Also, we are saying about the issue of details. We should be able to ensure that our CVs, our various testimonials are very detailed. Also, she has talked about the issue of sample writings. We should not engage in plagiarism and be submitting writings that do not belong to us. We're also seeing the issue of adhering to the requirements. She has clearly indicated that in every requirement that is provided by the JSC, we should ensure that we have adhered to the requirements. She has also talked about the criteria that is used to assess the various applicants, and you've seen the issue of professional competence, communication skills, both oral and written. We've seen the issue of integrity, good judgment, legal and life experience, and community service. So one thing that I've also loved that Dr. has talked to us about is the issue of our documents speaking for themselves. So that's the issue of recipsa locita. So your documents should actually speak even before the oral interview begins. And also you've seen the issue of being acquainted with landmark and notorious cases in the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court of Kenya. So that is very important. I think this is specifically important even for those looking out to the Court of Appeal interviews for the judges. Also, we have the issue of leadership and administrative skills. He has also talked about the scoring, which is 65%. So it's quite a handful. I cannot be able to summarize everything, but those are some of the nuggets I have picked up. And I hope we'll be able to find this discussion useful, even for those who are looking out for the positions of legal researchers, members of tribunals, judges, magistrates. So let us just all be able to look into these key areas that have been mentioned to ensure that we get more slots within the judiciary. Thank you, and over to you, my senior Felix.
Thank you very much, Atieno, for that wonderful summation that you have given. Commissioner Emeritus, for me, my greatest, I found this quite useful. And just today, this afternoon, and this should, this reminds me of what Commissioner Omwanza said at the beginning. I was meeting one of the judge nominees, one of them who was just nominated the other day, and he asked me to ask Commissioner Omwanza why he couldn't have come earlier before she went to be fried without having had this kind of experience. So in other words, this is such a wonderful experience for members of the society, and Commissioner Deche, thank you very, very much for this very enlightening session. And also, the other thing that I think should also, somebody sought to raise is the question of how do you react when a commissioner is wrong, but and you're right about it. You believe the law supports your position, but a commissioner is wrong, and how do you approach that kind of dicey situation? Because you wouldn't want to push very vigorously, but you clearly know the position that the commission has taken is the wrong position. What is the balance? How do you strike that balance, Commissioner?
Oh, that's a question. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, that's a question from me personally.
Oh, from you, okay.
Yes.
I would ask you this. What is why are you there? Why did you go there? What's the end game? Eye on the ball. Did you go there to win an argument? Or did you go there to get a job? Why should it even matter? Yeah. So remember, there are some commissioners there who don't even know what you're talking about, whether that is right or wrong. Yeah, especially the non-legal ones. So if I would not belabor the point. That's when you say some phrases that sound intelligent, but actually mean nothing. You say, yeah, I'm well guided. You want the job, not to win an argument. That's my take.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for that that response. Members, this is now the time for us to ask our questions, and we have so many questions that have come in, Commissioner. One of them that I can pick is you find a lot of people asking about, there is always this question to candidates, is the judiciary corrupt? And most of the times, like in the recent interviews, you'd always hear standard answers like, it is the judiciary is not corrupt, but it is a perception. Which may not necessarily, it sounds like, that answer sounds like a politically correct answer, because while we are out here, the question of corruption is always one that keeps on popping up. But it seems like candidates feel like if they probably raise the real issues about corruption, acts of corruption within the judiciary, then it might disadvantage them. What's your experience, or what's your view on this, Commissioner?
My view on the questions that are asked, not even that one or any other, someone in the questions that were sent to me in advance sometime yesterday, someone was saying, what do I say if I'm asked what I'm going to do with my law firm if I am taken? I mean, just speak the truth. Is the judiciary corrupt? Is there any government entity that's not corrupt? Of course, the answer is yes. There is corruption. And so I don't even know why someone, and you are not saying commissioners are corrupt. You are just saying that the institution of judiciary is corrupt. And what there is, even the very people who are asking you know that it is corrupt because they have very many complaints pending before them. Complaints, there are always complaints that come against judges and magistrates. And most of the times, of course, 80% of them are normally dismissed. They are not because they are merit-based, but they also know, they already know the question, the answer to the question. So when you go lying there, maybe someone is asking you to see how truthful you are.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I have a question here, and the question basically asks the speed with which sometimes we see candidates being nominated. For example, I think I would give a much more specific example. In 2021, when Chief Justice Martha Koome was nominated for the position of Chief Justice, and Justice William Ouko was nominated for the position of Judge of the Supreme Court. Justice Ouko had just been interviewed that morning, and a few hours later, the results were out. Is it that the decision was already predetermined, or the commission genuinely went through the interview process? I thank you.
You know, like I have been saying, at the whatever we call that nomination is normally an arithmetic issue. Arithmetic. And you know, nowadays we have Excel. So what normally happens is this. We would start with the Chief Justice. What did you award these candidates? Okay, that time there was no Chief Justice. Maybe Commissioner so-and-so, what did you award? They say it's read out. In fact, it's read out by the Chief Registrar. And the Registrar of the Judiciary who is the one who keys in, and they are projected. So within no time, after when you do and you see the candidates for Chief Justice were not that many, they were not very many. So doing that arithmetic takes a very short time. And then they take the person with the highest score. But you know, in Kenya, we like conspiracy theories and complication. So if you have the person who scored the highest, you are keeping it forward. In my community, we say the only thing that you keep for it to be better is bananas to ripen. You see, these are not bananas that you are keeping to ripen. You have the top person, announce them, move on to the next thing, because the country needs a Chief Justice, and this person needs to be vetted by Parliament. So this is just the beginning of another process. So the earlier it is done, the better.
Thank you very much.
Can I combine it with a question that I saw someone ask in the Q&A? And someone is asking, and it's good to ask these things. Richard, that are the positions earned by merit or favoritism, stroke nepotism? Are we carrying out a pure academic exercise? No. It is not. There is no nepotism. Let me give you an example of myself. I can't remember what year that was, but the first candidate, if you ever go back to the record of whether it's Facebook or whatever, the first candidate who was interviewed in the position of ELC is actually my first cousin. And she's called Naomi Wandia. You can go Google. She's named after my mother. And did she get the position? I would have wanted her to get the position. And what I did is that when you find, and I'm not the only one who's ever done that, when you find that it's a person where you'll be conflicted, you step out. I stepped out, and then she was marked. I looked at the interview later, I watched it, and I saw, huyu akipata ni Mungu. And she, because that time, and she told me, I don't think I performed well. And she did not get it. So if it was that academic exercise, that one would be in the ELC. But I can tell you that there are many people, the commissioners who mean well, at least I don't know one who is there, and they are telling us this person is going to get in by hook or crook. But of course, conspiracy theories normally sound sweeter and more exciting.
Thank you very much, Daktari. At this point, I would like to invite Dr. Jared Gekombe for live Q&A. Karibu, Daktari.
Felix, I'm not doctor yet. Dr. Deche, we still have a number of questions. I just wanted us to, because of the time, to rush through some of the questions, and probably we can take 2 or 3 so that when I give you the chance, then we can move faster. Just to, I mean, we are going through the feedback. Some members are really happy. I can see a comment from Patropa Cheka saying this is a wonderful initiative. This is now mentorship. I'd like to ask, what are the basic case law one should know? I see Mruatetu very dominant. Then we have Richard Moniki, who was asking, are these positions earned by merit or favoritism or nepotism? Are we carrying out a pure academic exercise? I think we have answered that. You have responded to that in your latest contribution. Is there a minimum score for successful candidates for a judge position before the regional and ethnic considerations are made? I think you said 65. So I think that has been answered. When it comes to distinguished character of the applicant, does a record of legal awareness to the public forums like churches, TV, shows count? I think we can take those 2, the basic case laws and a distinguished character, whether record of legal awareness to public forums, churches and TV forums counts for JSC.
Thank you. As far as case laws are concerned, of course, it depends on which court, yeah? Which court are you aspiring to? Is it a specialized court? So the case laws are along that. But over and above that, if I was aspiring to join the judiciary, which I'm not, I would really be interested in getting to know as much jurisprudence from the Supreme Court as possible. Yeah. The notorious Muruatetu 1, Muruatetu 2, yeah. And what does it apply to sexual offenses or only just murder cases? You know, BBI case, probably the notorious election petition cases. That is if you are aspiring to join the High Court. On land matters, the Supreme Court has said something about customary trusts. So it It depends on the area. But generally, there are those notorious cases. Surely you need to know the principles of Gaylor versus Cashman Brown. Justice Wasame would surprise people by asking them to tell the facts. Of course, a few of us know the facts of Gaylor versus Cashman Brown. We normally know. Yeah, MV Lillian, those kind of cases. By the time you have an interest, you will generally be knowing. And then again, they are soft on when it comes to legal researchers and law clerks, they are not going to hammer you as much as they will hammer someone who wants to be a judge. Then there's the issue, the other one was your visibility in, I don't know, churches on TV now. Did you see Sifuna talking about someone who has a degree in theology that is now in charge of fire rescue and all in Nairobi County?
Yes.
You know, mismatching skills, mismatching expertise, mismatching experience. That is really not going to help you. Or you want to say that, oh, I'm normally seen on TV giving analysis. How about, have you written something on it thereafter? And where have you published? On Facebook or where? Remember, distinguished. You need to be distinguished properly. So I do not think, I would not sit comfortably. And I'm saying this as a Sunday school teacher. You know, I teach Sunday school in church, and I'm even a deputy head of department, children's department. But there's no way I'm going to flaunt that when I want a job in the judiciary.
All right. There's a member asking, a panel that interviews tribunal members and the chairs, is it the same as the one for judges? Then another one is asking about dressing. Does it have to be a suit? And then there's a third one about candidates who are returning. I guess returning candidates are those who are being interviewed twice. So you can take those three.
What about them?
Do they have a higher chance or lower chance of selection?
Okay. Tribunal members are normally interviewed by, at least the practice that I left, they are interviewed by a panel of JSC. So, and normally, or the HR committee, yeah? And that will be at least, the quorum is 3 commissioners. So you may find yourself being interviewed by 3 commissioners, but it will be JSC. The only people who I know they bring in the judges is legal researchers for obvious reasons, because these are people who are going to serve in those courts. And of course, law clerks, it is normally a commissioner, mainly the commissioner who represents the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court judges. They're the ones who do that. About dress, it doesn't have to be a suit. It doesn't have to be black and white. You don't have to dress the way you dress when you go to court. Like, for instance, don't you like my color? It's popping, yeah?
Yeah.
Dress in a way, if you wore maybe such a jacket, you're wearing a black dress, and by the way, it is important at times even to consider having someone, you know, those image consultants who will tell you, when you dress this way, you are looking even better. You are looking even intelligent. You know, there are some clothes you will wear, you look foolish and not serious. But there are others you'll wear and you will look very sharp and smart. The same thing to the case with the hair. So just dress smart in a distinguished way. Yeah? But decently. Don't wear tight-fitting things where things are pouring out. This applies to both men and women, or shoes you can hardly walk in, you walk in wobbling. So that is very important. There's the issue of the people who come over and over again.
Okay.
My take is this, and please, people, forgive me when you eventually hear of this. I think they eventually pass through experience. There's a colleague of mine, a classmate called Kinywa Kamunde, who told me that he passed his standard, we used to go up to standard 7, primary school. He passed his primary school exam through experience because he did it thrice. The third time he had you could anticipate all the questions. So, and why not? And that's why I also gave an example of myself. When I lost, I was better now the second time. And there's nothing wrong with repeating. It's not that they say, oh, this one has been here thrice. No. It is now you become better skilled and you know the drill. So it's better, easier for you.
Okay. The next question. It's an anonymous attendee asking who is more likely to be selected, a person who is self-employed, say in private practice, or a person who is employed, I guess, in government. So privately, or someone who is employed, self-employed, and those who are employed in government. Then about distinction, is it the case that your name should be out there, familiar with the commissioners, or is attention paid to the marks of individual excellence that are generally not publicly known? Then another question. Did you get that one, Dr.?
Yes, I did.
Okay. The next one is about law clerks position. Do they get questions on Supreme Court issues only, or are they also asking issues like procedures in the High Court and Court of Appeal?
Okay. Okay. So about who has higher chances, I can tell you for free, we who are in private practice, no, I used to be, now I'm employed. I'm also a public servant. Those who are in private practice, I think it is harder. And it's not that the commissioners have a preference for those who are in private practice. No, this is where the problem comes in, the paperwork, especially taxes. Yeah, very few of us have cleaned up the taxes, and you'll find that although we have I'm just picking out one challenge which is there for private practitioners. We file our tax returns every year. We find that we underdeclare. And remember the backroom, you will bring us what is this? You'll bring us the tax clearance compliance certificate, but the chief registrar is busy engaging the KRA. And they'll say, look at what this person, and you're also supposed to submit your audited accounts for the last, I think, for the last 3 years or so. And we have a problem declaring everything because we don't want to pay all the taxes. Anyway, we are tired of paying taxes, so we want to cut corners. So there's normally, things do not always sync very well. And that is where we get problems. So in a nutshell, you find that it is easy for someone who pays payee and everything is all neat and nice for them to submit documents than someone who is in private practice. But that doesn't mean that there are people in private practice who don't do very well. Now, I go to the second question on distinction. Is it that your name should be there or you are notorious? I don't want to say whose name is all out there. So we know you, therefore you are distinguished. No. Remember, the distinction starts from, I always wonder whether it's distinguishment or distinction. Okay, distinction, whatever. It should start from the paperwork. Let me give you an example of Laibuta, because Justice Laibuta is the only non-judge who made it to the Court of Appeal that time. And Justice Laibuta, how did he distinguish himself that time? His publications, he has published. And then when he talks, I'm sure most of the commissioners, especially those who are non-lawyers, had never heard of Laibuta before, Dr. Laibuta before. But he came there, and I remember they had copies. I forgot one thing, something else. When you go for the interview, you must carry all your originals. And if you have lost them in a fire or a flood, make sure you have the abstracts, the relevant abstracts, and the letters from that agency that the examination council. So he brought all the publications. They were actually almost in a bag, many of them. So that is how that person is distinguishing himself. I'm not just any other person. Look at what I have been doing, and they'll tell you where they have served. So it's not about your name being there. Some people's names are out there for the wrong reasons. Do I have any other question? About law clerks, like, listen, I have already said who interviews law clerks. It's normally the representative in the judiciary in the JSC for Supreme Court, their representative together with Supreme Court judges. So I do not know what they're asked behind closed doors. I would be lying if I told you that, oh, they're only asked about Supreme Court or other things. I do not know.
Okay. There's someone who is asking about the 10 years experience, the 10 years requirement. Does it start from the date of admission? And what if you get the 10th year after close of submissions, but before shortlisting? That could happen. Does JSC conduct financial scrutiny? Investigate the wealth declarations? Then there is another question about bias. When asking questions relating to complaints. So there's someone who's saying that there is a perception that some panel members bring their personal biases, their perceptions and dislikes against a candidate, which they influence. I saw also the questions about complaints are asked by one commissioner. So probably you can elaborate on that, because sometimes those questions are seen as personal. Thank you.
Okay. There is the issue of 10 years. The 10 years, actually, the Constitution says nothing about post-admission. Yeah. It is like 10 years since you became a lawyer. The Constitution, constitutional threshold does not require someone to be admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Actually, there was once upon a time when we ended up interviewing a carpenter. I remember he was counting his 10 years from his 15 years from first year. He says, who is a lawyer? A lawyer is anyone who has studied law. Therefore, I am a lawyer of this number of years. But remember, we are talking about competition. It is so competitive. If people have to start counting months and dates for you to reach those 10 years, you are the exact kind of a person who will not be shortlisted, because we already have this pool. So it will be a good reason to eliminate you. So the Constitution is clear. It can be anyone, because we were arguing with someone, not arguing, discussing with someone about, remember someone like Yashpal Gai. He got admitted as an advocate not too long ago, and yet he was distinguished. He met all the other qualifications in as per the Constitution. I don't think he would have been turned away, although he's not an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. There is someone like Okoto Ogendo. He was never, I think he passed on without being an advocate, the High Court of Kenya. So there are those, but they are few. But you, with your few years, please just make sure that you get everything in order. I hope I've answered that question. Financial scrutiny, yes. Financial scrutiny, but the commission does not open those wealth declaration forms. You know, there's a lot of legalese and restrictions around wealth declaration forms. What the commission does is to engage those other accountability bodies, like the Anti-Corruption Commission, like the DCI. So that is how the financial scrutiny is carried out. And of course, KRA if you are telling us, when you sit there, you are asked, how much do you make per month? You say, then we have your returns there. And you've been declaring that you make 10,000 per month. That is where the problem comes. Now, about buyers, you are saying there's normally one commissioner asking about integrity issues. Yes, I've already said that these tasks are assigned. Yeah, when they go away, again, this is a backroom issue. They will go out there for a retreat for 1 week, and they'll be looking through your bundles, and then they'll be saying, Commissioner so-and-so, you are the one to ask on this area. Yeah. During my time, it was Commissioner Emily Ominde, and people thought she's a very bad person. Yeah. But that is what she had been assigned to do. And I was assigned to look at the sample writings and to ask any other legal question. So this is what normally happens. It has nothing to do with bias. By the way, those commissioners that you see there, even the ones who are there now, they are very serious Kenyans. They have other jobs elsewhere. They just want to finish an exercise and go. They are not malicious, and I'm not holding their brief.
All right. Now, when it comes to the scoring, there's a question that sometimes the scoring is so wide, sometimes it can be seen as evidence of bias. Do you have any form of moderation and scoring of the scorings? Then there was also a question on if you are asked a question and you honestly don't know, is there an intelligent way of responding instead of saying, I don't know? Then now maybe this is something else about the positions of chief magistrates and principal magistrates. They are not advertised externally. Could you maybe give a comment on that? What informs the judiciary's position on that? We can take those three.
Okay. About outlier marks, it's a possibility to have maybe some outlier marks, either too low or too high. Mm. How is that dealt with? You are dealing with 11 people. Yeah, and we are eventually, maybe there's a better way of dealing with it, but what normally happens is that it is an average that is taken. Even if you hated someone so much and you give them a 0, and I've never seen that happen, the marks of these others will somehow the average just works itself out, and you get the good person. But the outlier marks never, they will be there once in a while. Yeah, that's all I can say. When you don't know, yeah, it is very shady to say I don't know. I think you can say something like, I can look that up. I can look that up, or yeah, I agree with you. Something, you are distinguished and intelligent. Don't just say there, I don't know. Say I can look it up. I'll refresh my memory.
Yes.
About CMs, PMs, I just joined immediately after this had happened. And I can tell you it caused a lot of disquiet within the judiciary, within the magistracy, because you have someone who has been working on the queues. They started as an RM, and they've been queuing, waiting to go to become a CM. And remember, the vacancies up there, they're limited. Then you get someone cutting the queue and reduces their chances of ascending. So I think at some point it was thought not to be a very good labor practice. Mm-hmm. So for now, as of the time when I was there, then that did not happen. And I felt where the magistrates were coming from, because why even bother to ascend if there's a shortcut?
Yes, we have another question about sample writings. I think in the recent interviews, there's some interviewees who were shortlisted after they attached judgments and affidavit of service. So there are questions about how does one get shortlisted, yet they are attaching judgments and affidavit of service.
And you see, that's a kind of a question I will not answer.
Okay.
Because it calls for some clairvoyance. I don't know what happens there. I said I'll just talk about my experience. I don't know what happened there.
Can someone appeal against the decision of the panel?
To which decision is that? What decision would that be?
Decision not to be selected, I guess.
The final one or the shortlisting?
The final one.
You see, courts, we expanded the whole issue of local standard, and our courts are always open. And why not? I think someone can challenge. Someone can challenge. I don't think anyone is bad from going to court. But you see, now you challenge, what will you be challenging? What do you have the scores that you are challenging? You don't have them. And instead of, you know, if I was this person, why not join the ones who are repeating and try another time? But I don't think there's anything barring anyone from challenging. I have seen people challenge shortlisting, and the commission had to revisit and do it again and actually interview everyone. So I don't think that, I think it would be okay if someone just wanted to challenge.
Okay, I'm omitting some questions because they, I think they present a few challenges which you have, we don't want to comment on the, or cast aspersions. Now, can you expand on the issue of regional balance? How is it done, for instance, with majority communities that have higher populations?
There is one of the things that the commission will look at. There's a whole matrix that the commission has, and I think it emanated from the Public Service Commission, where they say the current population of this community is this, their percentage in the institution is this, and ideally they should be around here. Because you don't just look at just the numbers. You want to see what is the general population, because you can't say this population, there are too many in the judiciary where they are also the majority in the mortuary and in jail and everywhere else. So there is that need to balance. So there is that matrix, and those figures are normally available by the time they are doing that regional balance. Or people want to see it.
For a person applying for position of legal researcher, what qualities in terms of personality and documents will make one stand out from the crowd?
But legal researcher, first and foremost, you should have all the documentation that they are talking about. I think what would make you stand out is the nature of sample writings. What are they? A lot of people just bring the only thing they have is LLB dissertation and then a few letters. And I agree, but at that age, you really don't have much. By the way, at that age, I don't even think I had written anything beyond my dissertation. But the sample writings, your sample writings will make you stand out. And then how you explain yourself, how you communicate, and the way you organize and arrange your documents. You know, people who paginate as opposed to people who just come and dump. May I say something that we noticed, a few of us, when we were at the commission, that I don't know whether it's in the nature of the boy child, but the way they present their documents, they were mightily disorganized. Some are missing, some are lost. And there would be a difference between the way they present and the way the ladies present. Maybe it's in their very nature. So when you see a young man who has put their documents together, you'd be very happy. So there are just those small little things, appreciating very much that you have not been exposed, you don't have many years of work experience where you are expected to have written a lot. And the language, let me add the language. You know, people who start talking with it's like, you know, those cliches that people of a certain generation like using. So if you are able to speak clearly in clear language, then that's another plus for you. Because again, that is not also so common.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Daktari, I now wish to invite Atieno. Atieno, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please proceed with the Q&A kindly.
Okay, thank you. So I think a majority of the questions have been answered. Let me just look through the questions, if there are any other which have remained. I'm seeing maybe a comment that I'd like our former commissioner to talk about. I'm seeing someone saying that the interview process should not only be about papers and documents. What do you think about that, Daktari?
Yeah, by the way, this has been proposed by several HR experts that people should do a psychometric test. The first recruitment, post-2010 recruitment, I think candidates had been advised to also go for a psychometric test. I know, of course, this is a process. I agree with you. It can be improved on. But remember, again, it's not only about papers and the interview. There's a lot of feedback from the people everywhere, and its public nature. Processes can always be improved. So I agree with you, it could be improved. But again, judiciary and JSC operates on shoestring budgets. It has to be within the resources that they also have.
Okay, thank you for that. Then the last question that I'll take from here, from the live chat. I understand persons aged 35 years and above are not eligible for shortlisting for the position of a resident magistrate. Is this the correct position? Persons aged 35 and above are not eligible for position of resident magistrate.
Yes, I remember even when I was in the commission, that was a decision that was taken by the commission. Remember, the judiciary is a very structured, layered institution with a chain of command. Who is reporting to whom? So if we have this 50-year-old whose head of station is 40, you know, so it had to do with that. And it was coming from a certain place. There was a time that several people, a lot of, if I may call them old people, or people of many years, had been recruited as RM. And that issue was cropping up. Like, wewe ni mtoto, unaniambia nini? I am an RM, I am 40. What are you telling me? So I think it had to do with that. So that you all grow together without someone thinking that I should be respected because of my age and not because of that.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Maybe now we could take your parting shot. Anything you'd like to tell the advocates and anything you feel you should address as we wind up the session?
I just want to thank you for this invite, Commissioner Ombati and your team. And let me just say, I feel that I have not done justice, especially to those who are applying for the non-judge positions, especially the legal researchers and persons or in tribunal members. I am available for a further engagement when it comes to that cadre, because it would also be a way of just encouraging. I feel that we need to input more because these senior people, not old, senior people, they know where to read and where to look. But the young ones, I feel, need to be nurtured more. So I'll be happy to continue engaging in a group. Please don't call me one-on-one. I don't have the time. And by the way, those who are asking for my slides, I don't share the slides. This is from the first schedule of the JS Act. You just go look it up there. But thank you very much. And I am happy to continue engaging with those ones who are who want to pursue the lower cadre jobs. And I wish you all the best. And my parting shot is keep trying. When you fail, try and try again. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Deche. Indeed, you continue to be a distinguished person in the profession with the work you continue to do in mentorship, in imparting knowledge, and we sincerely thank you for your time. And indeed, if there are many other people who would like to benefit from your wellspring of knowledge, I will inform you of the same in groups as you have clearly indicated. Thank you. I'd also like to invite Commissioner Omwanza Ombati if he has also some parting shots as we wind up the session.
Thank you, Commissioner Deche, for that insightful presentation. We truly appreciate you for the contribution you make to the society and to the profession. And for the members who've joined this afternoon, thank you for finding time for learning. I'm also a student of life. I keep on learning. I've learned quite a bit from my bigger sister or older sister. and we'll continue with these conversations in the Omwanza series that will come, we bring every month. So be on the lookout. We just wish for those who have applied for any position, all the best and Godspeed. Thank you and be blessed.
Yes, thank you once again. I'd just like to wish everyone a blessed evening. We'll be sharing the next session that we'll be having in June. So have a lovely evening, advocates. Let's keep trying, as Dr. has told us. Be blessed.
Thank you. Good evening.